things magical. Various things. I forget that'd be useful.
Yeah.
You know, getting rid of the.
Yeah.
Covering the, would be so helpful, as opposed to doing what they're doing as we drive in here.
We are live.
We are live and we are going to wait just a second for our director to come back. But I can welcome you anyway. Welcome to the park board. The beautiful day in Eden Park. It always is a beautiful day in the park. Lots of positive things going on in Cincinnati Park, so we're glad that you're here to share with us. We have a full agenda today and a lot of positive things going on in the parks that we'll take up today on our agenda. There we are. And with that, I will call our meeting of the Cincinnati Board of Park Commissioners to order. And we have a full commission here today with us. And thank you for being here. As I said just a few minutes ago, it's a beautiful day to be in Cincinnati Parks. Beautiful day in Eden Park. The sun is shining. So thank you all for being here and for watching us on YouTube today. We will first have some public comments, and we have a few. As I call your name, come up, and we give everybody 2 minutes. And Kelly will be our timekeeper, so do not take it personally if she buzzes you, but we will give everybody 2 minutes. So first we have Tim Noonan from Manor Hill in Cincinnati. Tim, welcome.
Thank you for your support for the Burnett Woods Dog Park. I do at least a monthly walk through Burnett Woods in the section closest to this Clifton Business District. I have found needles, encampments, and a mattress and box frame mounted on 2x4s concealed just off the trail that runs between Diggs Plaza and the Nature Center. I reported all of these, and I would like to thank Dave Patel and his team for removing them. The other night at the CTM meeting, Mr. Getz got plenty of engagement from the Clifton business community about Diggs Plaza. They are adamantly opposed to the current status of Diggs Plaza. What is the big vision for Burnett Woods? The status quo is unacceptable. Diggs Plaza is occupied day and night by alcoholics and addicts. Trailside Nature Center is very rarely open. People are throwing trash cans in the pond and smearing feces on the wall. Even the positive events have issues. My wife has had to step over a passed out alcoholic 3 times on her way to Wednesday in the Woods. Burnett Woods is going to require big ideas. I believe that the dog park is a good first step, but more will be needed. Burnett Woods is a city park with city problems. I think it is safe to say that all the steps forward will be hotly debated. I would like to thank you for your dedication to the Cincinnati Parks and your willingness to endure this process of necessary changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Annie Blair from Whitfield.
Hi, I've lived in Clifton since 2002, today with my American foxhound named Linus. We walk in Burnett Woods all the time. And I just came to thank you. I'm really looking forward to having the dog park and looking forward to volunteering there. I think Linus is just looking forward to meeting new friends. And so I appreciate all of your efforts, and I just want to tell the staff and the board how much it means to us. And mostly I'm glad I'm not going to have to drive out to Miami down to the dog park soon. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Annie. Nestor Melnick.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing us to speak here today. And I just want to recap what I had beforehand. Thank you for hosting Flu Talk at Sawyer Point this weekend. It was wonderful. As I mentioned to Commissioner Lee, our craft did fly. It went 47 feet, despite what Red Bull put on social media. Thank you for hosting that and incredible events that Parks puts on and the activities and everything. Speaking of activities, I'm here actually to thank you for not just activities, but improvements, and specifically the improvement of the dog park at Burnett Woods. I think it's an incredible first step. As Tim had mentioned, Burnett Woods has tended to be neglected for many years. I've resided in Clifton since 1991. I think it's exciting to see that something positive is going to happen, that some physical improvement, some asset is going to occur in Burnett Woods. So I want to thank you for your diligence, seeing that come through fruition. and accepting all the wonderful donations, accolades, and everything to make that happen. I think it's going to be a wonderful asset. I think it'll be a great first step. I love the fact that it is going to be universally designed to create a fully accessible feature in Burnett Woods, something that someone doesn't have to schedule a special session to go and hike through the woods, but can go there anytime the park is open and enjoy the outdoors and enjoy that time with friends, neighbors, pets, the whole 9 yards. So just want to thank you all for your dedication, everything you do for Cincinnati Parks. It's incredible.
Thank you, Nestor. Fran Larkin.
Hello, my name is Fran Larkin. I live in Corderville with my wife and our 2 dogs. We love spending time in the Cincinnati parks, of course. I made public comment last month on behalf of Coreyville. So I'd like to just come back and follow up on that. And it's also nice to hear all the thanks for you all and what you do. I'd like to add on to that and appreciate you for your public service and for keeping our park such a wonderful asset to the community. I'd love to see all of the improvements to Burnett Woods, like the new playground. And I think blocking, the ability to drive through the park. These are all good things that have been happening. So I love that trend, but I did just want to, like I said, follow up on my public comment from last month on behalf of Coreyville and address kind of our concerns, one of which is the cost and the maintenance. I get a sense from today's public comment who some of the community dog park supporters might be. But I'm just curious about, how they've promised annual fundraising and how they might be held accountable, or how, that element of the plan for the ongoing maintenance of the dog park is going to be responsive to the needs of our community perpetuity. According to my neighbors in Corderville, who are nearby residents of the dog park site, the back of the dog park site is actually closer to their homes than the Denor site was to Clifton Homes. And I think the most important thing I came here to say today was just that Corderville has received no response to the letter sent to the park board on May 11th, 2022. And no response to the public comment that I made on behalf of the community council last month. And the information on the park website about the community feedback element of links to a survey about the park site. So just wanted to kind of throw those thoughts out here and just need to seek some sort of response to the Corderville neighborhood, which includes Burnett Woods, along with our friends, our neighbors, and Coffee.
Great. Thank you, Fran. And finally, Aaron Weiner.
They've all said everything but thank you first for your public service, and I'll be brief, but I do want to thank you for supporting the Burnett Woods Dog Park and moving forward with it. I'm a 18-year Clifton resident. I've lived in city proper my entire adult life, and in Walnut Hills and in Columbia Tusculum. And I'm most proud that we're going to be one of the first accessible dog parks in the region. I think that does speak to our commitment of inclusivity in our city. So thank you for your support.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate the ongoing input that we receive. There's a lot of input that we get every week. We do receive all the comments that come in. We are out in the community. As Mr. Noonan mentioned, I know I personally attended both the BPAC meeting this past couple of weeks ago and also the CTM meeting as well. So our commissioners are part of the community. We represent the community, and I think each of our commissioners are dedicated, and we receive all the input that is coming in. And I want to echo what has been said today too, and appreciation for the commissioners and the input that we received, and the bows and arrows, as well as the gratitude that we received from our community for representing them. So thank you. I also want to mention we do, as I said, we get inbounds from the community as far as comments, questions, input on various projects that the park is working on. This past month, we received a lot of input that was in support of the Burnett Woods Dog Park. We also received input opposed to the Burnett Woods Dog Park. And like every public issue that comes up, we as a board are the ones that have to look at the public good from both sides and make decisions that sometimes will fall on the way that individuals would like for them to, and sometimes will not be completely in agreement with some of our community. But we do what's best in our opinions as community members. So I appreciate all of your initiatives and your efforts. We also did receive input again. It's an ongoing issue with rocks being thrown from Bellevue Park. It's something that staff has been focusing on. We had Cincinnati Police with us last month and brought that to their attention. It's something that I will just say, I know Commissioner Lee brought it up again last month as well, that it is an issue that somehow we've got to try and think of what more we can do as a park to address that. But I appreciate the efforts. Joel and his group with the incredible cleanup that was done on that hillside, the new netting that was put into place, the fencing that's been done. So I appreciate all the work that's going forward, but obviously it's something that's an ongoing issue. So we'll continue to work on that. So that's public comments. We're going to move into, because we've got, as I said earlier, a lot of positive things going on in Cincinnati Parks. We've got a full agenda today and all of it is good news. So we're going to dive right into our agenda. The next thing is administrative actions. And always the highlight of a meeting is approval of the minutes from the month before. You've all got in your packages the minutes from July 20. Do we have any additions, corrections, or additional input on that? If not, I'll entertain a motion regarding acceptance.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Move and second the adoption of the minutes, approving of the minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you, Kelly. Again, I assume, Kelly, you did those, but thank you, whomever pulled those together for us. Now we'll move into some information updates, and we'll go first. Jason, would you like to introduce Joel, or do you?
Yeah, always my pleasure to introduce Joel Gross, the Director of our Division of Planning and Design, to update you on everything we're doing in the world of construction and design throughout our park system.
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you?
Morning, Joel.
You all. The report is very long this month. I apologize for that. As Jason said, we got a whole lot going on.
Continues to be busy.
So first, I want to point your attention to action item C. That one is included in my report. That is the interior coating of the tank for the Pickler Fountain. We received a quote back from Sarah Technologies of $73,850. That includes all of the engineering involved in ensuring that the previous surfaces that were on there don't chemically react negatively with the new stuff we need to put on there to provide a good coating for this. So all of that is included in this, as well as about a $15,000 contingency for fire protection. They have to be covered to get this stuff in and out of these tanks in a confined space. The city of Cincinnati Fire will be approached to do that stuff for them, at which point they would do that much, much cheaper than $15,000, but they put that contingency in here just to cover us if we had to do that. The foundation has graciously agreed to fund this. So we were asking this morning, I was waiting on the warranty period for this, and I received information on that this morning. The folks are going to provide a full 5-year warranty on both workmanship and the materials, even with the old coatings, which is good. We will come back and visit that tank in 3 to 4 years to make sure it's not leaking. Obviously, we'll know, and they'll come back and fix that. I've worked with these folks several times. They'll fix it 100% of the time. I recommend that you all approve the acceptance of those funds and allow us to continue with Sarah Technologies to get this tank fixed.
You know, I would like to take up the action items that Joel has in his reports as they come. So again, any questions or comments related to this maintenance issue? It's a significant expenditure. As Joel has said, the foundation has stepped up and said that they would like to fund this. I want to thank Lindsay. I have a habit of calling people by the wrong names, but Lindsay and Jennifer from the foundation are here. We appreciate the funding for this repair. Any specific questions for Jason on that?
Mr. President, I just want to point out that this just shows the great partnership with the foundation once again. The foundation has funds and available. I don't know the specifics because they're the masters of the specific. They have funds available to keep Smale Park in tip-top shape. So this was a perfect example of kind of a special fix. We've done the simple fix on this fountain a couple of times, as Joel accounted for, but this is a special one that's going to provide what we think is a 20-year fix. The warranties for 5 because they're fixing something that's been fixed several times. So no good businessman would warranty something for too long on that. But as Joel's team's going to do with the tracker and how we're looking at these warranty issues, we just did the roof on this building. We're starting to put that warranty information into this spreadsheet so that we'll know, or future us's will know, to check that a year before the warranty expires to make sure we get that full warranty value. But since this is a special fix, the foundation was so great to step up and offer to help with this. And it just shows the partnership because later on, we're going to bring up new lights for the fountains throughout Smale and Washington Park. Those are more routine maintenance. We have funds for our Smale continuous maintenance funds that we're going to use for those. So it just shows how together the two of us can work to really take care of our special parks and keep them in tip-top shape. So. Love that.
You'll have any questions? I guess we'll go ahead.
Great.
Awesome.
This is a significant feature. So let's do this officially here. Can I have a motion this is a motion to approve the expenditure to correctly repair the tank system for Pickler Park.
And to accept the contribution from the foundation.
Let's do both in one. That'll come back. Actually, let's go with the repair because we've got a list of things that we would like to highlight from the foundation. So this one will be to repair that part of the fountain.
This one would be action item C, Molly, only to accept Sarah Technologies at that price with this warranty to complete that work.
So any other questions on this? If not, can I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second,
Motion and second to approve the request from staff to move forward with the repairs to the fountain. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, commissioners. We'll get them moving on it right away. They promised within 6 weeks. They're kind of all over the country. Most of the work that this company does is for like power plants, redoing generators that are high heat and things like that. So they're running from place to place, but they're well worth the wait for a few weeks, but fully intend to have that done and tested by the end of this year. So we know that it's good and can hit the ground running for next year and no problems.
He has to test that before it gets cold.
Yes.
And again, the foundation's help allows us to move with all deliberate speed.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you. My next item to bring to your attention out of my list is the Bellevue parking lot accessibility upgrades. As Jason alluded to, and you heard of the public comments, we're still having issues with that. Bruce installed permanent but removable bollards with permanent bases across both of the drive lanes that go in and out that allow you to circle in traffic up to the overlook. Within 2 days of those being installed, somebody apparently hooked their car up to one of them and ripped it completely out of the ground. So there's some serious security things going on there at Bellevue, as we know. The fencing that we put in and trying to keep those folks away from that rock overview has been cut. Even the very, very, tamper-proof fence that we tried to put in, that stuff has even been tampered with. So Jason is heading a group, as you well know, that's coming to focus on security for these kind of things. And I'll let him speak more to that if he wants to, but we're very aware of the issues at Bellevue. We're trying to work to make that park as safe as we can.
It's an incredibly tricky issue. As you guys saw in the public comments that were shared, there are citizens that are getting rocks thrown at their houses constantly. The teams tried to shore this up, but this is a great example of when people want to be vandals and do crime, it's really hard to catch them proactively. The police department has tried. We've encouraged everybody to report to the police every time. The police is at least reporting back to them, according to their email, that there's nothing they can do to stop it. But we're committed to working with the police and to try to find a solution. The reality is there are rocks there. And as you can see from the photos, most of the rocks look like they're kind of handheld size, which can be dangerous, but the rocks exist there. And so it's a challenge that I wish I could say that there's an easy solution to it, but I don't know.
Surveillance.
Yeah, potentially some sort of a camera system or something like that might have to be our next step.
I agree. I would. And this is systemic across our system with intentional violence, with throwing rocks. And I think that's violence. But I think, and purposeful menacing of tearing out either the fencing or the bollards that we just put in, I would highly recommend that we look at the possibility of cameras in key parks to be able to at least try to identify if there's repeat offenders.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna look into everything.
I know it's something
I think-
CRC unfortunately has had to do the same thing. Perhaps different reasons, but CRC facilities, we are installing camera systems just because for safety for kids that are at this centers as well as for.
Is CRC monitoring those cameras themselves, or are they just linking them into the police to allow them to monitor them?
I know that they're working with the police
Hmm.
monitoring. I don't know. I know we do not have a dedicated person at CRC that's watching cameras.
That's one of the pieces we'll have to think about as we do this.
Yeah.
At least with rec centers, there's like a rec center director where we don't have like a park director as much as regional directors. So as we think through all this, that'll just be one key component, but the police have cameras all over the city. So hopefully we can tap into that system and make use of that to allow them to catch the folks that are doing this, which is just terrible.
You all have anything else on Bellevue for me? One construction project to bring to your attention because it's right in this same building. Howard Masonry is completing some repairs on the chimney above us that was leaking and the flashing and cleaning some of the brick and some of the exposed areas through here. So that work is almost complete. We expect them to be tore down and out of here next week sometime. So that's one masonry project that's getting off the list. And now we will focus on several of the other walls and stairs and things like that we have the contracts to be able to do so. So we're very excited to be moving some masonry projects forward now. Lytle Park renovation, there's a ton of stuff going on there. Concrete walkways, site curbing, all of that is in full swing. We expect it to be substantially complete by the end of this month. Topsoil will start going in as irrigation and lighting goes away or gets done. So working towards kind of cleaning ourselves, painting ourselves into a corner. The Taft end of the park will actually start to see topsoil this month and seeding. So you'll start to see some almost finished pieces of Lytle Park here in the next month or so. I want to say thank you to Western and Southern. Jason's been working with them for quite a while to get additional funding for the 4th Street lights and some improvements for curbing and safety, pedestrian safety and accessibility along that 4th Street bump out there. So I think they officially approved that money and have turned that over to parks now. So we're working with DOTE to get that change order completely put together, capture all those costs and get that work integrated into this, as well as the updates to the comfort station. All of those things will be kind of working together. When we go into a park, I think I've told you all this before. I like to look at it holistically, fix everything that needs to be fixed while we're there. So we don't have to come back and forth 10 times to one park. So we're hoping to do that with Lytle, and this gives us the ability to do so. So thank you very much to Western and Southern and our partners at DOTE for helping us get this stuff done. Mrs. Castellina, I have an update on the tree because everything is looking better. They've continued to water and monitor the watering and moisture content of that tree. All indications from the arborists are saying that it looks much, much better. So hopefully that continues to improve, but everything is going well at Lytle Park.
And I should say just a huge thank you to Western Southern, like Joel said it several times, but I met with them on Friday and kind of walked through some of their staff through the park and kind of gave them this update. And just, without their help, this park, wouldn't be able to be redone to this level. So just really exciting stuff, and walking them through, they were really excited about it. They're looking forward to helping us to activate it when it's open. They're super eager for it to be open, but we talked about timeline and kind of what a possible ribbon cutting would look like and when would be the best season for that. And, we'll know more as we head into the fall, but things are on track and everything's going well. So thanks to them and great work by our friends at Bruce.
Do you have any questions on Lytle?
Great.
Thank you. Next one I want to highlight this month is the Ludlow headquarters. Tons of stuff going on there as well. The roof is almost complete. All that's looking really, really good. Standing seam steel roof makes a complete different building when you put that on there. So it feels better inside. All that HVAC is going very, very well. Almost done with those as well. The drainage fix in the back is complete. We found that the pipe next to the building was good, and the one that came from the back of the site was bad. So for the same price, for the same length, they fixed everything, tested everything, and now all of our drainage is good in the back parking lot. So shouldn't have any more flooding issues, which have caused other issues in the building. We're hoping to negate all of that stuff at once so we don't have to come back and fix anything. That's a very, very good thing. One thing I want to point out to you all on Ludlow is the fact that because water was coming into that building, it came in right at a set of stairs, a concrete set of stairs. And I think I put in the report a couple pictures of these stairs that had been just hit by essentially salt water for years and years and have rotten the bottom of the concrete out. So this, we are architect extraordinaire, a couple of the structural folks to get pricing for that. That's probably the last contingency item we see in this whole thing. It's expensive, $20,000 to $25,000. We are getting kind of quotes like that right now. We have the contingency money to cover that in the $50,000 contingency that you guys approved at the beginning of this project. But we're probably going to use almost the rest of it to fix that. The last piece of Ludlow that we're probably going to need funding for is IT. Gene has done some inspection along with ETS. There's about a $23,000 to $25,000 ask. Most of the wiring that's in that building apparently needs to be replaced. They had a spider web of, I don't know, a 2-inch conduit of wires going through this place. And apparently a lot of that stuff needs to be replaced. So Gene is working on getting quotes for that right now, but that may be another piece to finish out that building in total that we come back to you as we finish everything out for Ludlow. Still on schedule to be done by December 1st and allow everyone to move in on time.
And we walked through it when demolition was going on. Who would have thought, looking at thousands, what seemed like thousands and thousands of cables overhead that were all for internet, and realizing exactly how much internet access the police department needs to run a district headquarters. We wouldn't have guessed that we would need new cabling, but of course, technology moves quickly. And so, but we want to make sure that they have the fastest high-speed internet possible. So we'll be bringing that to you.
Joel, this is another project that the quality of work that you're doing, I'm not an inspector, but going by that building all the time, it's just looks great. I appreciate what you've said already this morning and your other comments as well, that you do it right the first time and we're not taking a Band-Aid approach or we're not doing something to get by. So I appreciate that approach, making sure that the headquarters building that many of our folks will be moving into is a quality project and a quality building.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. I would like to shout that back to two folks. Megan Construction is doing an amazing job overseeing that project. Obi Nwanko and Jai Owens of that company are doing a phenomenal job. So every couple of weeks we meet. I sit in on most of them just because I like to see how it's done sometimes from a project management standpoint. They're doing a great job. Chris McGee on our side is doing a phenomenal job. So thank you to those folks as well for making that project a success. We're almost through most of the hurdles, I'll say. I don't want to jinx us. Anything else on Ludlow, commissioners? All right, my next project is some actual good news. Yateman's Cove, the electrical work that you approved a couple months ago, the first manhole that they went into, they found the dead short. So essentially, we don't know how much of the rest of the wiring may even need to be changed, and we may have fixed the problem of this for a fraction of even that $128,000 DO. What we wanted to do anyway, and what I put in the approval, was to upgrade some of the cabinets that are leaking and things like that, the actual interface to where Lou and his team have to plug in for these events. So with your permission, even if we don't have to fix the rest of this electrical, I would like to allow Megan and Holsteggy to move forward with completing the rest of those electrical upgrades. The electric itself was fixed. I believe it worked for Flutog, so that was great to have that, timely to have that. So thanks to Andy and his team for coordinate that with Megan to get that stuff done. You all have any questions on that one?
I mean, it's such an important lawn for us to focus on. We hold countless events down at Yateman's Cove. And so this upgrade and making sure the electrical is in tip-top shape for the long term is, again, just another kind of deferred maintenance piece, if you want to use that word, but maintenance piece that we need to get done, and it'll allow us to continue to be successful and folks continue to enjoy the park like they did on Saturday. So
moving into new work and things that we're trying to get done and get ahead of the game a little bit. So California Woods is in the final stages of the request for qualifications preparation. Crystal and her team are helping us to ensure we're putting together everything we need to get a proper design and overview of this park, from a hydrological perspective to the best use of the probably $1.1 million we have in funding. Not to say that we're not going to dream and try to get some master planning done out of this as well, for if we decide to move the nature center at some point or scale back vehicular access into that park, if it makes sense, things like that we're always trying to do to ensure we're being the best stewards of our natural resources. So Crystal, I want to say thank you to her again. She's helping finalize what we need to get done out of that RFQ. We 100% expect to have that in front of you all for review in September, for your blessing to take it out for bids essentially in September. So just an update on that one. Let's see, the last one I want to highlight, I believe, is a right of entry request. So this one is a pretty big deal, I think. About a year ago, we received a couple emails talking about Duke wanting to come into Otto Arm Leader, McGrish, and California Woods ball fields to install a new gas line, essentially right next to their old one. They're replacing their high pressure gas main. Big deal, pretty much has to be done. So we looked at that stuff initially, said no objection. We know the project has to be done, but no assessment of tree work was done in the areas that they're going to have to on property. Beginning of last week, I believe, Jason sent me an email with a signed right of entry from CRC, and Crystal and I jumped into action trying to figure out where we were in this process. So by Wednesday or Thursday of last week, we met on site and Duke met with us. They have already started clearing up to the areas where we do not own. Crystal has a whole lot of assessment to do on trees that are going to be impacted for this, and Duke is going to have to pay for a lot of that stuff. So this is kind of coming back to the forefront. They had easements in place to go to city council. We cautioned them that our board has to approve all easements that impact park property right now. So we're working through how to get this back on track, since essentially they skipped the step of dealing with the park board for the past year. So Crystal's on top of this. I believe the assessment's already started. But we hope to have more information for you all in September on that one as well, as to the magnitude of impact on the park property.
And is Duke in agreement that they will have to do remediation?
Absolutely. Yes. All that is written in the draft right of entry, which appears in the board packet, that they acknowledge they're going to pay for all of these trees. The problem is we don't know what the trees are, and that wasn't established with many of the ones that you've seen in the past few months that we've worked through with MSD ahead for LeBlond, those kind of projects. We've established a cost ahead of time. At this point, we have to do that very expediently. They're sitting there with an excavator waiting because they can't get easements approved, and we're not going to rush it to not do the work right. So Crystal and her team are putting that stuff together. We expect to bring you all a revised ROE for consideration probably in September.
Well, and note that California Woods is an old growth forest. So a forest that we really want to take care of and make sure that we're doing everything we can to limit the impact. This is a huge project for Duke. It's something that they've been working for a long time to get done, but we still have to make sure that we protect the asset that we're protecting for the community. So
yes, and it's not going right through California Woods. This hugs the edge of all of the right of way. There are some impacted trees. Otto Arm Leader is certainly the one that has the most impact. And it's probably the confusion, I would say, on Law's part and letting CRC lead that. In any case, as you all know, we own that property and we have to maintain it, the grounds, even if CRC, operates it. So we're working through that, figuring out how much that's going to cost, and we'll bring that back to you all for approval, hopefully in September. We'll update you as soon as we have that work done, even during this month.
As your representative on the CRC board, not aware of this issue, so we have our board meeting at CRC this afternoon, so I will ask more information about this.
What area of Arm Leader is there? I can't tell from the.
Molly, I don't even know how to get you there. What is the road name?
It's a very big park.
Yes, it is. There is a substation that you pull off of the road, off of Beachmont Circle, that you wind around right there on that end of that park. There's a little substation right there that you have to walk out to. And there's an electrical line that runs all the way down that road, 3,000 feet. The limits of disturbance, as Crystal and I saw, are about 30 feet from where they had most of this cleared anyway, and they have an easement already. They're extending that easement because they're putting their gas main right next to this. It's essentially 3,000-ish feet of 30 to 50 feet of trees that may or may not have to be cleared. Crystal made it abundantly clear that we want to save every single tree that we can, if they can, and they told us they would work with us in part because in parts they can, but as it gets farther down the 2,000 feet, there are areas that are probably 50 feet wide cleared of, substantially nice trees. It's a big deal. It's a whole lot of trees anyway. Matt is working on putting some overlays together, so we'll have exhibits overlaid on exhibits for you all as we bring this to you next month, so you can see the impact tree by tree, essentially. We'll have all that laid out for you in exhibits. I apologize for not having more information on this. We've had this for about a week. I think I was putting the board report together as we were dealing with this for the first day, so.
Sounds like we'll hear more.
Yes, ma'am.
Another note of just how full Joel's plate is, right? He's working on all these normal projects, and then from time to time, there's a project of critical impact for someone, in this case, Duke Energy, that we want to be good partners with, and we try to do our best to, I want to say drop everything, but squeeze it into already busy days. So thanks to Joel and Crystal for their hard work on this and being supportive to a community partner like Duke.
I think it's this Beachmont Avenue, Pennsylvania area that you're talking about.
Yes. If it would help, Commissioner, we'll send you all an overlay of this like prior to the next board meeting, certainly. So you can see exactly where we're talking about as we develop it. Matt's working on that stuff already. Crystal's getting her team together to try to put, staff hours to how much this is going to take to properly assess, and putting that together, as Jason said, on top of everything else she's got. So working through that right now, but we'll have a much better update. Any questions? I believe that was all the things that I had to cover.
As you guys could see through Joel's report, just a ton of great work going on. There's great pictures throughout, update on things we talked about last month, like everybody's treehouse, which is moving forward with a request to get that structural assessment done immediately. Updates to the pickleball courts to add accessibility, which just looks great. So just a lot of great stuff happening out of that department.
Just the visibility alone, I mean, it's great to be able to see all the things that you're doing. Many times we come in once a month and hear reports from you guys, but it's incredible the amount of work, and I appreciate the tools that you put together so that you can see where we are making an impact on the maintenance that needs to be done. So thanks.
So often they're the kind of projects that don't necessarily jump out visibly, right? You might go to the park and not necessarily notice that there's a new roof on a building or that the electrical works better than it did before. Now that's a credit to our facilities team that can make the electrical work, even if it's not set up just great. But so many of these things are the literal deferred maintenance that we talk about all the time, and that was kind of overviewed in the Inquirer over the last month. So just really starting to knock that stuff out, or continuing to knock that stuff out.
But your photographs speak 1,000 words. They're so helpful.
Thank you for the suggestion, Mrs. Casson. Told me that in my second month. Pictures.
So grateful. I'm so grateful.
Very well. One more thing I wanted to mention, as you know, budget season is upon us. We're well aware of that. We're working to put lists together. We're meeting with the director's office of finance to reprioritize and ensure that if monies become available for us, or if opportunities become available for us, we know our priorities and have them in order. So you should probably see a lot of that stuff coming in September as well. So thank you all. Appreciate it, commissioners.
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. No.
Two things. There's a lot of information in here about water and biochar. Or we
Yes.
talk about that. It's not on the agenda. What's the purpose of this?
So this is kind of a living document that was developed by Andrew and Joel's shop to kind of capture our ideas about our thoughts on water. Water Nursery sits in Springfield Township. And so the first step is to make sure that we talk to our friends in Springfield Township and kind of let them know what we're up to and start to find out what options are available to us. The two big pieces that we need their help on are getting 3-phase power from a road, either North Bend or Winton, to Water Nursery. And then secondly, vehicular access. Currently, there is residential road, Water Road. We think that can more than handle the amount of traffic. We always want to look for as many options as possible. So we had 2 different options that we explored with them to on how we can get vehicles in there in other fashions. We don't have any final plans there. This is more of just kind of an update for review. to see kind of where it's coming along. When we have more concrete plans, we'll of course be bringing them to the board for a full update. Additionally, when we do our tours coming up in September, we're going to make sure that the tour will end at Warder Nursery, where we'll get to kind of walk the grounds and talk about all the options out there and kind of a lot of the thoughts we have on how we can make that facility a lot more functional and really serve the community in a much greater way.
This is a great info wrap.
Right.
I would have loved to have seen this a couple years ago. Now I totally get it. I had imagined everything on this page,
Mhm.
but two things. I think we were talking about biochar capturing energy and using that energy.
Correct.
It'd be helpful to have on this.
Okay.
It's a strong
Absolutely.
plus biochar generally. And I hadn't envisioned this being under a roof. Was that just, I should have envisioned that? I mean, I'm imagining this basically incinerator taking up a massive amount of
Mhm.
woody materials. And it hadn't occurred to me that that receipt of those woody materials would be something performed under a roof.
Interesting. Well, biochar predates me. When I was first briefed on it, the idea is I believe that it can exist outside of a roof, but, and this might be just something that, this is new technology. And as we learn more about it, it's better to get it under a roof. Because like with any equipment, you want to have it, you want to keep the elements off of it. And so I believe our current thought is we can put it under a simple pole barn. I don't believe we have to condition it.
Correct.
Because it obviously produces a ton of heat, but it will be have the barn doors that will open in the summer to ventilate it to some extent, but it will be a hot operation to work in. But my guess is at some point over the evolution of this project, it was determined that kind of the best practice would be to keep it under a roof in order to make sure that it lasts as long as possible.
I can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry. There were two, as you all may remember, when I first started working on this, there were kind of two major suppliers that had two different ways to do this. One of those comes kind of in a military style container, the 8 foot by 8 foot by 20 feet long. All that is self-contained and they called that a train. You may have heard Crystal talk about, hey, you might need one train or two trains or whatever.
One or two cars.
Right. Yes, 2 cars. So the second one that we went and looked at from the supplier that is the vendor, I believe, that is chosen, does a different process. And that one is essentially something that you probably should cover. So it looks much more like if you've ever seen a tumbler in a foundry, something that tumbles the sand off of parts as they come out of a foundry. It's about a 25 foot long by 4 foot wide cylinder.
It almost looks like a cannon.
Yeah. And we can show you pictures. I have a couple of the ones that we saw in Missouri, but as those 4 chambers of the cylinder go down, it gets hotter. So it goes from 300 degrees to 500 degrees to 700 degrees to 1550 degrees when it has no moisture through those 4 trains. And it tumbles so that the heat goes very uniformly like a convection oven around an interior cylinder, which is only this big. And that's what makes the biochar. They push only a 6-inch cylinder of stuff through this other huge cylinder that's really, really hot. And that has no air whatsoever. That's the anaerobic reaction that creates charcoal instead of burnt stuff like you burn in a fireplace, right? The difference is it doesn't get rid of the carbon. That's the whole point of it, keeping it anaerobic. But all of that is contained in that cylinder. And the boiler kind of sits on top of that 10 feet in the air. All of that probably needs to be under roof, or else you're going to have a whole lot of problems with your controls and things. So as Jason said, it can be pretty simple. The building is very simple. We don't have to, because it's 1500 degrees at one end, we'll have plenty of heat. We can actually have reject heat to do other things with. If we get the boiler, if it goes that far, I think that's still under consideration and negotiation. But definitely the thinking has changed as far as a self-contained box to something we need to keep under wraps with actual controls. That is we need to be able to work on it outside of that. So we definitely need to cover that building. 2 things on this, Commissioner. This is split up into 2 things. The temporary conditions for Ann and her team, we're working through that stuff, and that's on the fast track. Biochar, as Jason said, we're working through specifically power. Very, very encouraged by initial meetings with Springfield Township that's going to be possible pretty easily to get power back there, potentially from North Bend Road, and access is good as well. We think we're going to potentially have a partnership from the other direction, from Winton. Is that right, Jason? Mm-hmm. Maybe even coming in from that way. So all good news from the 2 meetings that we've had so far with Springfield Township.
We had a great on-site meeting with them where we met with the township administrator and the assistant township administrator, and they were both really positive about it. They were already thinking of various partnership ideas. There's a large portion of what used to be Warder Nursery that was sold years ago to Springfield Township. And I think very early days, but there might even be an ability to kind of partner those two pieces of property back up. I think originally they were hoping to maybe do some housing over there, but that's not going to happen now. And so now that it's a preserve, Cincinnati Parks have much more resources than Springfield Township in order to activate these kind of spaces. And so they're looking forward to ways that we can work together. They're talking about all the same stuff we are, classroom ideas. They've got a new brewery going in. They want to know if they can grow some hops with us. So they've got all kinds of ideas, but they've really embraced it, which we're excited about.
I'm continue to be concerned about the access. I was out there the other day, Warder Street basically is residential with cars parking on both sides. And my concept of biochar has always been trucks in, trucks out. And that seems like a very congested area to be industrializing, so to speak. Now, if the drive, I'm assuming, is off of Winton up by the schoolyard, the school playground there, that would be a whole lot better and a whole lot easier as far as egress and getting trucks in and out.
We went into the first, I'm sorry.
This new access road beside the good.
The one extending north.
This was an old school and playground, and they've already started, there's a driveway here that they've actually started using for work that's going on over on their side
In the
of
preserve.
in the preserve, yeah. And so what I'm assuming, looking at this, it was that this might be the way versus this. This is what is coming in now, and that's just all residential in there.
Basically, that's currently just woods. But what we wanted to do is have a couple of options because we didn't want to presume that we could use the space through the preserve. And so we wanted to have a couple of options and kind of find out what their thoughts were.
And they were receptive to either way. Our major concern was, I think, three-phase power for biochar only comes in from North Bend Road or only comes in cheaply from North Bend Road. So our initial thought when we went to the first meeting was to ask for both access and potential gravel access road off of North Bend because they own three parcels right off of North Bend that abut to ours. That land is valuable. We understand that. They're very amenable to allowing the three-phase power there. Didn't rule out whatsoever even accessing it from that, but we're quick to offer kind of the Winton Road side, which already has an established road, which is, excellent in our, obviously we don't want to disturb any more space than we have to anyway. So they're going to allow us to use that road. That's a positive aspect for the project really quickly.
Well, it sounds like you've got some more cooking to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
He told me that last month too. A lot of cooking on this one.
This is the ingredients report.
Yes.
And so.
Phase 2 of the 5.
Yep. We want to make sure that we're giving you guys as much insight as early as possible. So these things, obviously grow and develop as we go and we get new ideas. But this is kind of where the thinking is and to get this good feedback and have this good conversation. And then, we're really excited for our tours coming up to take you guys up there and let you check it out.
Second item. More discussion on biochar.
I just want to mention one more thing on that. As you know, Chris and Andrew are preservationists at heart for sure. They are really excited about the possibility for using the stables as the biochar facility. It may be one of the harder things we do to retrofit that building, but it may also be one of the most responsible things we do to do that. And I'm letting them run with it for a minute. We'll put it that way to see what that building can do. It has 2 levels and the top one is a concrete floor you could put a tank on essentially, which would allow us potentially to put biochar on the second floor and utilize gravity to essentially just come right out the side and load and unload easily. It sounds really, really easy when I talk about it like this, but there's a million things that go into it like that. But if it's cost effective, we're at least going to explore that to utilize one of those old buildings to do something really, really cool with. So just to let you all know, it's still in play to do a kind of a retrofit for one of those buildings, if it makes sense financially.
Right. Second thing, boat dock. Anything to talk about here?
I will defer to the director.
There is not. The permit is still before the Army Corps and Hafner is working with the Army to answer all their questions and get approved.
Have any expectation on timing? And then when we do get the permit, are we mobilized to proceed?
We are. So the steps are the same, which is that Hafner brought us kind of a presentation on kind of where they were at back in February. We're waiting for them to refine their cost projections and to discuss if there's a need to close the financial gap. The position of the park board, my understanding is from the beginning has always been we have $1.7 million dedicated to this project. Things have changed over the last 2 years as far as costs go and supply chain and all that stuff. And so we're at a point where we're waiting to hear back from Hafner on kind of what their proposal is going forward. And then we're happy to engage upon it, but we stand at the ready to engage them.
Got it. I guess what I really want to be responsive to is the boating community out there that's saying, when are we going to have this boat dock that we've been pushing for and we're ready to use? How do we respond to them?
At this point, the park board staff is ready to review plans and start to talk about what the budget is for this and work through those details. The permit is before the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and they've got some questions that they've put back forth to Hafner about the specifics of the plan. And we're waiting to hear kind of how that process moves forward.
So the Army Corps permit, are we managing that or is Hafner managing that?
We are managing it with them. So the permit is submitted by us, but it is their design to get approved. So we've handled all of the pieces that we can submit and approve, but then it's on their engineering team and their design process to answer these final questions.
And Molly will also handle, when the time comes, we'll handle the internal coordination with city building department to ensure they're meeting ADA and accessibility requirements. But we have to have essentially the Army Corps permit cooked to the point where it's done for the building department to do those as well. So as Jason said, we stand at the ready. We'll make those meetings as soon as we have the information we need to do so.
I think it would be helpful to hear from them on what we can expect from them. Meaning, what are they doing right now? I mean, are they waiting for costs to come down? Are they working on a redesign? When do they expect to get this Army Corps permit? Are they slow walking it while they try to figure this out? I think just some transparency on where things stand right now will be helpful.
I agree.
At this point, we're missing the 2024 boating season period. So let's not miss 2025. When I came on board in 2021, we thought we were going to have a boat dock in 2022. So at best, we're 2025 right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's get them to.
Jason, there's a deadline coming up, right? I mean, there is some urgency from the Corps.
For the Corps, 30-day deadline
We
for
do
them to
have,
come to
the Corps has sort of said,
answer their requests.
you've got a deadline now, right?
The Corps is in communication with Hafner, so we're waiting to hear their response.
I think construction costs have come down. We don't really expect them to come down anymore. So we are where we are.
Close for sure.
Right. That's it.
Thank you, commissioners.
Any other questions for Joel?
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks, Joe. Incredible.
Here's your goal going forward, your project sheet to keep it to 3 pages, not for our benefit.
The report?
Yeah.
3.
Are we at 4 now?
6 this time.
Oh. All right.
Achiever.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect segue is HR is so important.
Yes.
Derek, you have a huge job. And I think what we have seen in the presentation we just had from Joel, you get the right people and the staff that Joel now has. We need to make sure that we continue to find the quality people like Joel and Chris and Andrew and keep that going. So what do you have for us, Derek?
I have a couple of updates in regard to staffing. Overall, we have about 139 full-time employees, 122 part-time employees. We have slowed down with part-time hiring. It just as we're heading to the end of the season. So we are really ramping up. How are we going to prepare for next season? We've hired 125 part-time employees compared to the 59 last year. So we've had some success. And I think we're going to continue to have more success because we're now meeting with like the Department of Performance and Data Analytics to streamline our process with other departments like Recreation, Public Services, as they've onboarded new software to NeoGov. NeoGov is what we accept applications through. So it's called Onboard, and we're going to be doing like background checks, driver's abstracts all through there. We send part-timers downtown to do that themselves. We lose people within that process, they find other jobs. So I think that will render some really good increases in part-time hiring.
In reading your report, there's one part that I don't understand. The Parks grant writer. Why has that been put on hold? I don't understand why it's been on.
It's that one and a couple of others. So the parent classification of that is the senior administrative specialist and administrative specialist. They were in the process of being posted, and then we noticed that some language that should have been entered when Code approved their contract in February to allow for a broader base of employees to apply has not been entered by Central HR. So now we're kind of at the will of Central HR and Code to finalize what they're doing and update the classification before we can post.
So when the Code is the union for the middle managers, middle manager is the wrong word, but for like the administrative class of employees with the city. It's smaller than AFSCME, but it still represents a lot of employees. In the past, these two positions had certain requirements that required the development of a list and a test in order to hire off that list. And that limited the scope of stuff, especially for jobs like this that were varied from the kind of core function of administrator. And so in the most recent Code contract, they changed that to where these top two classifications in this administrator line, if you will, were able to be open to the public. So you could have people promote into it, you could have people off a list, or there would be no more list, and you would be able to just open it up to anybody. So for a position that is specialized as grant writer, we have been waiting for that change to take place. In March, the new contract was approved. February, the new contract was approved. And living in a union environment, that still gets negotiated out. And so we have been expecting that update to the classifications or literally the posting would happen. And it has not happened yet. So we are hoping that it happens soon. I know the union and the Central HR are talking about that, but we want to make sure we wait for that to happen because that will allow us to get a wider class of people. As with a lot of things that I've learned over my first 11 plus months now here at Parks, there are definitely challenges that arise, but I always want to make sure that we as a team are focused on getting it right, not just getting it done. And so in this case, this grant writer we hope is with us for a long time, brings in millions of dollars for us to take care of a lot of problems throughout our park system. So we want to make sure we get the right person for that, not just someone that might have already been in the city. There are plenty of good people in the city, but this is somebody that we want specifically to have a lot of grant writing knowledge. We don't necessarily want them to learn on the job. So that's kind of our decision to wait on that.
I'm frustrated for a timeline.
Yep.
Have we got any kind of a timeline?
We are hopeful that it'll get approved at the Civil Service Commission in August.
Well,
or maybe we have an update.
We have a board meeting Thursday, which it won't be on there.
Okay.
And the first meeting in September is not going to happen. They're only going to have they have a meeting at the end of September 27th. I guess that's due to it being summer, people taking vacation. I'm not sure, but there's some lag on Civil Service Commission. Usually it's 2 a month, usually on the same day that we have our meetings, but they only have one. So we'll push it back.
We approved, we would fund this position.
Mm-hmm.
When, January or in December?
Last January.
Well, yeah, so.
Mhm.
Okay. So even though we are funding the position, it's now taken.
We have restrictions on like the language we can put into the posting. And that's why I have to wait for that classification to be updated because it's pulled directly.
Where the money's coming from.
Yep. The specific problem is if we hire previously to this getting approved, we have to follow a process that will limit the kind of applicants we get. We might find somebody that's great for it, but it'll limit the applicants we can get. And if we wait for this change to be fully implemented, we'll be able to open that up to anybody and everybody. And so that's where we're at, is we want to make sure we get this person right and get somebody in that's going to really maximize that grant writing function.
So is the law department involved in all this too?
I would assume so, help supporting the central HR and the union contracts, but it's mostly central HR who are negotiating, who are dealing with the union getting this approved.
They were more involved on the front end when.
You have greater patience than I have. Jiminy creepers, excuse me.
Well, I've had time to prepare for this meeting and
I think Derek,
There are many frustrating meetings we have where we discuss this. And so
let's remember they're not real walls, they're Nerf walls, just.
well, we do have a lot of good news. We have engineering intern. An offer was provided for that in Joel's shop.
an engineering intern, to be clear, is not an intern like you would think of somebody fresh out of college. An engineering intern is a classification on the process of going from college engineering student to Joel. This is one of the steps. So this is somebody that will have some real skill set and really help Joel, his team to be successful. So we're continuing to add to that department. We're up to, this will be our 5th person in the department. But at least 3rd new hire that we've added in this calendar year to Joel's shop. So Joel and Chris are getting a lot of help, which we're excited about.
We appreciate it greatly. Thank you. That's why the board works 6 pages sometimes.
Yeah.
Push as many of them as we can, but it lets us focus on things that we need to, like water. You saw what Andrew got done this month and the things he was able to accomplish just because we had that at our fingertips and had good stuff to go meet with Springfield Township quickly and try to react to these and at least cut off the biggest problems before they become problems. You know, we're getting big decisions made, like, can we get electric? Can we get access, before we really dive into spending a lot of time focusing on the design.
Okay, Derek.
We have a couple of co-op interns that are going to be assisting Waterfront with their audio visual activities. We have a carpenter. That position closed on the 11th. Now interviewing. Good thing is, by the time that September 27th meeting comes, we should be able to have offers, like around 6 offers on there, 6 positions. Urban forestry specialists, we're interviewing within the next 2 weeks. We have 2 laborers, offers have gone out to them. Those will be on that September 27th meeting. Parks Recreation Maintenance Crew Leader. We're interviewing, probably will be held within the next 2 weeks. That would also go to that September 27th meeting.
And this is a district crew level position. So this is one of 2 district crew leaders in the Eastern Division. Really excited. We miss greatly our great employee that moved on to another good opportunity for them, but we're trying to fill that as quickly as possible to help get the Eastern side up and running.
The Arborist series, part of that is approved. It is requisitioned. Once that requisition is approved by the Vacancy Review Board, we will post that as well. We also have an addition of 9 positions that was approved by budget for 2024 that we are requisitioning this week. 3 floors, 2 laborers, a trail technician, a maintenance crew leader, events coordinator, and a GIS analyst. So our vacancy will increase, but that's a good thing. We're adding some people to our TO.
The most important number is that top one, 139 full-time positions. We want to keep seeing that one tick up.
What's the storekeeping?
They assist with like our inventory, things that are shipped in that goes to the different divisions. They help with our ordering of uniforms. They do a lot of administrative duties as well. They can,
So are they here in this building?
They're at Sinton. They manage the operational supplies.
Gotcha.
It's
Okay.
really modern title. Similar to Boros.
Florist and clerk typist.
Typist, right?
Derek, if you had full employment, what would that 139 employee, no, let's go with the 122 part-time employees. How many could we have had instead of 122?
Part-time, we're probably close, right?
Yeah, part-time, we're doing really good. So even with the help, I don't know if I don't know. It depends on, shortening that hiring process.
Yeah,
Done so much better.
yeah,
God
absolutely,
bless you.
absolutely.
Really well done, Derek.
Yes.
I should also point out one conversation we're having too, with that Central HR is helping with, is that our part-time seasonal folks are two different classifications. One is a municipal worker, and that position kind of leads towards the laborer role. And the other is the recreation specialist role. And that can lead in a variety of ways, from helping as a camp counselor to assisting with some of the horticulture duties, to all kinds of stuff throughout our system. To helping with the Department of Natural Resources and some of the trail work and some of the invasive species work. But it's this title of recreation specialist, which we share with recreation in order to hire those folks into that classification. That classification is a little bit outdated in that we're sharing that. And we have two very different functions that we want to do. Recreation hires a whole bunch of recreation specialists. We hire probably 60 to 70 as of that 122. They hire several hundred, as Jim well knows, to cover a lot of different duties to kind of manage more youth throughout the summer. This year, the municipal worker got a promotion and was given an extra $1 per hour. And so we tried to equalize that with the recreation specialists. For us, we were able to do that and absorb that cost, but Cincinnati Recreation Commission wasn't able to or interested in making that change, which gave us an opportunity to engage the HR department and say, hey, what if we had a parks specialist that was somebody that had a classification that was geared just towards us, that we would then have more control over? We would be able to adjust it and control it as we wanted to, which would hopefully gear more people towards that. If you are a parks lover and someone that wants to work in parks and go to the city's website and look in, you see all these they might be in parks, but it says recreation specialist. You might be thinking, oh, I'd rather work on horticulture or something else. And so we're hoping that by getting that new classification in line, we hope we can get it in line by the seasonal hiring season next year. It's going to give us a lot more flexibility to hire exactly who we need and kind of advertise better and have more control over that position. So it's another change that kind of a long time coming, but sometimes you have to ask the weird questions of, can't we just change that? And in this case, we can. And so that's something that Derek's been working on with Central HR, and it's a really exciting change for us.
Great. Yep. And finally, Brittany Sparks, she's out today, but that's my new administrative technician. It's going to be handling payroll for me. A lot of our injury reporting and a lot of other administrative duties that's going to be taken off my plate and help me be more efficient. So I think next commission, I'll have her come in and introduce herself.
And lastly, while we're on HR, I just want to update the park board about some it's been a really sad 2 months for park board. We've lost 2 active employees to illness. That's just really tough for our team. First, Lynette Leisner, who's a florist in the East region, had been with Parks forever, was just beloved, and had kind of just made a real impact with some of the hard work she's done to make our Eastern parks just wonderful. And then James Foster, who is a laborer in the Eastern region, also passed away just a few weeks ago. For Lynette, there's going to be a celebration of life come this fall that I'm sure many parks people will attend. I think that might be in a park. James had his funeral or his memorial service 2 weeks ago. And a big delegation of parks folks went up to that. It was way up in Carlisle, Ohio, but we went up to support his widow and his family through that. And so just really tough to lose good folks that have been with us for a long time. Jenny worked with James for a long time at a lot of waterfront events. And so just, the Parks family kind of mourned this month. Additionally, we had one employee who was involved in an accident while mowing some lawn in Mount Airy Forest and had to go to the hospital to receive some stitches. And Derek and Jenny had been working to make sure that we help walk him through the workers' compensation process of the city and make sure that all of the check marks are handled so he has a really smooth and seamless process. He actually came back to work this week, is on light duty, but we're excited to have him back, and we want to support him as he gets through this tough time. So just a really tough couple of weeks for us. But
Thank you.
Any questions for Derek or anything related to HR? Great. Again, thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on. Some action items. Now we'll get into the action, right? Craig, you've got some good things for us to look at here.
Just got a lot of wonderful things from our partners there at the Cincinnati Parks Foundation. A lot of grants to go through. The first grant that we're going to be reviewing is the Lido Park Comfort Station and Life Grant. This is $220,000, and this will be used to renovate the comfort station, update lighting along 4th Street, and enact a safety bump out in the curb that will improve pedestrian safety and accessibility. The next one,
Craig, that's the western and southern.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
Correct.
the next one Joel went through, this is $73,850. This is for the Smell Riverfront water tank liner repairs. This is for the Pickler Fountain. The next one is $51,000 for the Doris Day Dog Park. This is located in Mount Airy Forest. The grant will be used to replace play equipment, repairs to the pergolas, and lighting and other improvements.
Real quick, while we're on that one, this is another great partnership with the foundation. They've got some funds available for that dog park. Joel, Ginny, Matt Hood and Matt Hood runs our Western Division that's in charge of Mount Airy Forest. Went out and toured that dog park. We talk about dog parks a lot here at Park Board, but that is a different style of dog park than what we're planning for Burnt Woods. It's much more of a dog run. It's kind of an open grassy area, much larger in size and therefore allowed to be more natural, but it still has operational challenges, which is that it's kind of built along a ridge. And so one of the problems that Matt ID'd for this dog park was that ridge, we put mulch out every year on that ridge to kind of make sure it's not muddy. And every year throughout the summer, it rains and the mulch slides down the hill because again, it's kind of along a little bit of a ridge, and it degrades and it turns back into carbon in the air as we talk about biochar a bit. And so one of the things we're talking about, and again, we don't have a firm plan for this, but the foundation had the funds available, so we had to bring them in, and now we can kind of put it into our system of looking for a plan. But one of the plans we've talked about is potentially having a bit of a concrete curb that would allow us to put gravel on the top of that so that there would be a nice, dry, non-muddy area for dog owners to walk out to and kind of enjoy that bigger dog park. But would then end the continual putting mulch out to just let the mulch erode and slide away. And also just ensure that that's no longer just a muddy mess for large parts of the year. In addition, if you've been out there, the dog playground equipment is very old and very rusty looking. And some of it is visible from Western Northern. Yes. From Western Northern there. And it does not look like the type of dog park that we all want to project to the community. So those are some of the items we're looking at to do with that, but that's still a little bit of a work in progress. But you know, foundation has the money available, so we'd like to accept it and start thinking about what we can do to fix that up.
So you're costing out these ideas. But in the bank, we're going to have the 51,000.
Correct.
I've got it.
That is correct. Yeah. Moving on with the dog park theme, the Burnett Woods Dog Park. This grant will provide funding for the progression of project plans from concept drawings through bid level documents. This is for $44,550.
So this one, we're working with Human Nature on the condition of the foundation and the donors. Some of them who are here today is Grant, that we work with Human Nature, who did the original drawing of the dog park and a preliminary budget a year or so ago, a year and a half ago. So we're going to work with them and we've got them under contract to do that. And then we're going to work with them to design take the drawings to bid documents, which we're hoping to do that over the next several months and hoping to get this out to bid by the end of the year. So we will involve, of course, the board along the way as we we'll use that initial design kind of as the framework, but now we'll kind of have some meetings, kind of initial meetings to kind of get the scope. We've got a lot of great ideas from folks. Obviously, many folks support the dog park, many folks oppose it, but through all of that conversation, there have been some really positive things generated. And so this will be the process where we kind of cycle through all that and figure out what's the best for the design of the dog park. And then we'll be bringing that back to you this fall.
All right. Thank you, Jason. And then the final grant is the $5,390. This is for the Eden Park Wolf statue. This grant is for the restoration of the stone base and preparation of the return of the statue. Total amount,
Yep, sorry. Well, just real quick on that one too. Since these are all projects that are in some level of work, I'll provide some updates. The wolf statue, obviously, again, some crime in parks, but was stolen over a year ago from Eden Park. A great committee of local Italian citizens have helped the foundation fundraise for the repair of it and have coordinated with a foundry in Italy that it was originally cast at to get it recast, and it's on its way back here, or maybe even has arrived. I know it's
in custom, but it's here.
it's in customs. So to speak of processes that are even as hard as getting things approved through central HR. But it's in customs, and so we'll be getting it soon. We'll be looking for a unveiling ceremony this fall, which we'll of course have you guys invited to. There's this stone plinth that's the base of it. We did get a really thoughtful letter into the park board this month from a citizen who pointed out kind of in their mind, the hypocrisy of having this statue that was donated by under the regime of Mussolini. Inarguably, nothing that anybody's looking to celebrate. However, this statue is more about the Italian immigrants that have made their way to Cincinnati and have flourished in Cincinnati, dating all the way back when. Found some old news articles that mention Castellinis. I can only assume there's some relatives there that were involved in that. And so we've tried to be very deliberate about this and how we handle this. Because the statue was donated under the regime of a dictator, there is an inscription on it because this dictator liked to put his name on everything or his specific inscription. And when I can imagine, but when you're living under a dictator, you don't get to say, well, we don't really want to highlight this. We just want to celebrate our Cincinnati immigrants. And so that it has that. This funding is going to go to restore that base. It is a big stone plinth that has been around for centuries since it was donated, or 80 years or whatever, since it was donated. We're going to get that restored. And talking with the Italian citizens the Italian Cincinnatians who have helped us fundraise for this, the committee they put together with the foundation and with ourselves, what we've decided to do is to restore it all and kind of really restore all of the inscriptions on it, except for that one. And so that one that is that kind of notes Mussolini's reign, we're going to let that one fade a bit. And obviously it's a stone plinth. It's not going to disappear. But rather than bring it back to its original glory, we're going to let that one fade. Now, we talked about, do you cover it up? Can you fill it in? None of that makes sense either, because you don't want to cover up history, right? So this is a case where we're going to allow that to fade a bit and not celebrate it. But then we're also going to have some signage that's going to go in with this, that's going to talk about kind of the statue's history, what makes it important to Italian Americans who have immigrated to Cincinnati and have built great lives here and great businesses and great civic communities, and kind of talk about that decision and how that exists. So not an easy issue, but one that we're trying to kind of walk the line of being respectful, not covering over history, certainly not celebrating terrible aspects of history, but also celebrating our Italian Cincinnatians and their incredible commitment to Cincinnati, to this statue. So a long-winded response. I hope that the writer of the letter is listening. I doubt they are, but hopefully we'll be able to communicate that to them and kind of let them know that we're trying our best to make sure that we're not in any way celebrating a fascist regime that did some terrible things.
right?
I think that type of response, I think, deserves to go back. So we can get back to that.
Yeah,
it's great. Hey, any questions regarding? If not, I can make a motion to accept the grant as a listed here.
So moved. Very exciting. Thank you.
In the second, Phyllis, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Lindsay, thank you again, representing the foundation and for the help. And we're not done. Stay tuned. Craig.
Yes, we have in-kind donations from the Parks Foundation. So the Parks Foundation provided $80,327.83 in-kind donations. If you notice, a large portion of that was for horticultural supplies / program coordination. This is for the conservation stewardship program that's being collaborated between the parks, Civic Garden Center, and the foundation. And there is a packet detailing information about that within your guys' packet. Actually tells you all about the program. So staff requests that we accept the in-kind donation of $80,327.83 $327.83.
Questions, comments?
Yep.
I tell you, the conservation program, it's an incredible program. And I think long-term, doing that education for volunteers is going to be a very key portion of our park's ability to maintain and to keep them environmentally in good shape. So that's a great program. Any questions at all?
No.
Can I have a motion then, please?
So moved.
And a second? Second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Commissioners.
And Lindsay, come back next week. Thank you again. Okay, we'll go to who's going to present on the lighting, colored lights.
Correct.
So as you know, we have several interactive water features and fountains in Washington Park and Smale Riverfront Park. These features have a high level of technology and programming to create very unique lighting along with the water feature that takes place. Facility maintenance is responsible for either replacing or repairing those lights. Approximately 550 fountain lights in Smale Riverfront Park and Washington Park, 450 in Smale and approximately 100 in Washington Park. And it is time to make sure that we are able to not only replace and repair the ones that have gone out, but also have an attic stock so that we can do so on a regular basis. Have to go through a procurement process every single time we want to replace one. So the total contract that would go to Hydro Dramatics is the company, excuse me, that helps supply these, distributes these lights. The lights actually come from Crystal Lights, and then Hydro Dramatics helps distribute those locally here. Actually, they're from Missouri, but as local as we can get. These lights consist of not only the bulb, but the entire assembly, the cabling, the gaskets, and then something called a choreo switch, which helps with the programming end of the computer system and then changes that into the electric precise lighting to occur on the light shows. I can tell that Kik understands what I'm talking about. And so what I am looking for, we have received a quote for $225,000 in order to cover all these light fixtures, assemblies, cables, choreo switches, and that will supply us for approximately about 2 years. I think you look, yes, we're looking that this will be a 2 to 3 year. Something that you all know what we are trying to do is to make sure that we have a good asset management plan. So we expect that this will last at least 2 years, if not maybe 3. And we will be evaluating that as we go on to make sure that this becomes a regular routine of ours in order to keep our attic stock up and know what we're spending year to year on such items. So about 180,000 would come from the Smale Riverfront Fund, 329, and then 45,000 would come from the 980 Infrastructure Rehabilitation Capital Fund for Washington Park, just because of the 450 at Smale and the 100 at Washington Park. So staff is respectfully requesting the approval of this purchase from Hydro Dramatics for replacement of water feature lights at Smale Riverfront Park and Washington Park, not to exceed $225,000.
Questions? Are these fixtures such that these are the only lights that will work?
That is
those
correct.
Fixtures.
That is correct.
So there is no competing bids that we can possibly get.
That's correct. We are going for a single source through procurement in order to get this replaced and repaired.
Well, they're key features. I mean, obviously, that's a very visible key feature. It's something I'm sure Joel will look at going forward as we do new installations, as far as ability to have competing costs for supplies like that. Any other questions? Not, I'll entertain your desire on this. I will so move that we approve the recommendation of staff for the up to $225,000 for these lights. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Jenny. Jason, we're to you.
Commissioners Fund Budget. Craig, I'll invite you to come up, not necessarily to present, but to answer technical questions as I present this. So as many of you know, and some of you are learning, the Cincinnati Parks Foundation has about $19 million in endowments that we manage. These funds are commonly called, well, these are the park board endowments. The park board endowments have been given to the park board over, the entire existence of the park board. Some folks now give the funds to foundation, and the foundation manages those, but in the past, this has been given directly to the city. And those endowments are worth about 19 million. We have an investment committee led by Board President Getz, who meets quarterly to review those funds and make sure that the fund managers are performing well or meeting their benchmarks, or at least getting close to them, given the volatility of the market. And then each year, those funds kick off a certain amount of money, as many investments do. And they have been allowed to build up to really high levels. As noted in here, we started this year with a balance of almost $5 million on July 1 of 2022. And there's been an effort over the last couple of years since Craig's come in. I think it was like 6 million when Craig came in, maybe higher. Year seven. There's been an effort to spend down this checking account. And so the money that's built that spins off as investment return, some of that is mandatory with some of the funds that are managed by Fifth Third Bank, and some of it is discretionary, and the investment committee can recommend a disbursement or not based upon market conditions and need of the park board. And then there are also some other sources of funds that go into those commissioner funds, and that is Park Foundation operational support. Last year, about $229,000. Park Foundation for like Lytle Park, so all of the money we just took in goes through the commissioner fund. Crone gift shop sales go directly into the commissioner fund. The Greater Cincinnati Foundation, which is typically the Board of Visitors, and then lastly, the Pyatt Park Community Support. All of those funds, along with the spinoff of the investment return, goes into effectively a checking account, which is the commissioner funds. And that's what's been allowed to build up as high as 7 million, and we're slowly building down. Several of these funds have specific parks they must be spent in. And so one of the things that, as I was reviewing this with Craig, over the last year, I noticed was that those were the funds that were building up, because it's hard to spend $5,000 a year, $8,000 a year, even sometimes $20,000 a year on a specific park, because previously we were targeting that to supplies or to professional services. And so it's hard. We don't buy mulch 4 yards for this park, 30 yards for that park. We buy it for the whole system, and then we use it as we need it. And so those funds were at the end of the year not getting spent. And so last year, we passed a budget for 1.8 million, but we ended up spending $1.6 million out of those funds. So I asked Craig to rethink some of that and to think about, could we target those funds to specific positions that take care of these parks? Because it is easier to say, well, employee or role X takes care of this park with 10% of their time or 25% of their time. And then we can target that salary and fringe benefits back to that park fund and allow it to spend down. So what Craig did in this budget request was that he looked at the run rate on our various line items in the budget. How did we spend them over the course of the year? And then reallocate that towards what was the actual spend versus what was our projected spend at the beginning of the year. And then he targeted all of the funds that were restricted to these specific employee salaries and costs, which allowed us to free up $583,000 of funding towards these salaries, which will ensure that we spend these funds down, and will open up space in our general fund budget to add additional staff that can't necessarily be tracked back to these specific salaries. And so the strategy there is to ensure that we're spending those salaries down and open up flexibility within the general fund to hire additional staff and to move forward, continuing to provide additional services to the parks and additional services to the community. One of the positions that will be funded with that salary is the grant writer, which we funded last year with the same strategy of using reimbursements. Specifically, that wasn't in the budget because Craig knew we weren't going to spend it all down. So if we had been able to hire that person, say in March, we would have been able to, that salary would have appeared on here instead of zero in salaries. We would have tracked that person back to it. So one question that could come up is, well, if we're going to spend this money from the commissioner's fund budget, what happens with the opening the funding up for new salaries? If those positions aren't hired right away, how will that work? Craig always works to target all of our reimbursements from our general fund dollars first, because the general fund dollars are the dollars that go back to the city at the end of the year. And so those reimbursements will happen throughout the year to make sure that we're still spending our general fund dollars. But from an accounting standpoint, this will free us up with dollars available to hire additional staff to provide additional service to the community. In addition, there are a couple of one-time or potentially ongoing initiatives that we wanted to add into there that appear in the professional services and supplies and rentals. One is that our overlooks, we have beautiful overlooks throughout many of our parks that are often on hillsides, which need to be cleared of the trees and the
honeysuckle
that grows up and blocks that view. Traditionally, we have spent about $75,000 to contract that out. It's a little bit dangerous and specialized work. And we've done that once a year right before the fireworks. But what that means is that all year long, that grows up and those views aren't in good shape. And so what we've wanted to do for a while, but we have never done, is do a twice a year clean out of those. And so we're putting in $75,000 additional dollars to do a second clean out at the beginning of the season in order to ensure that the view corridors are great all year long. In addition, one of the projects that we're really proud of that the foundation again helped us with was cleaning out the honeysuckle at Glenway Park. Glenway Park, which will be on our tour, is a park that unfortunately became a little bit of a haven for crime because it had honeysuckle covering about 85% of the ring of it. We cleaned that out and now it looks a lot like the art climb steps, or at least an early version of that, where it's just trees left and you can see the sidewalk now from the park, which is not something that's happened in a generation. And so it's really eliminated a lot of the ability for crime to kind of hide in plain sight almost, or hide out of plain sight. That was so successful that we'd like to do 3 of those projects next year. So we're putting in $75,000 into our professional services to do 3 projects of that type size, to have somebody come in and really beat back an area of honeysuckle concern that then our operations team will be able to manage. Additionally, Jenny noted that we have a lot of rented golf carts that we use throughout our operations team, but we don't have enough. And that is something that she feels like, and the operations team feels like, would make us a lot more successful if we had more golf carts to handle operations in our parks that have operations center in them. So whether that's Alt Park or Mount Echo or here Eden Park or other parks that are close to operation centers, those golf carts will allow us not to have to use trucks for that, but allow us to be much more nimble and much more efficient. So we've added in about $43,000 in rental supplies in order to do that. And then lastly, as we've talked about Warder Nursery and our plans to increase our production there, which again, the plans are at very early times, but we've set aside $50,000 under supplies that would be startup supplies for that. So again, this isn't supplies that we have a specific plan for yet, but we're putting it in the budget because that's an initiative that we want to show you about on our tour and bring to you as we move along through the process this year. And so we're projecting ahead for that. So that's kind of an overall, the direction I've been given is to kind of spend these dollars down and get them to a more reasonable account balance. I don't think any of us want to see it spent to zero, but we want to get it down to a more reasonable account balance where the money that is spit off or generated every year more appropriately equals what we're going to spend every year, which allows us to plan and kind of be more consistent in our bank account. And so this is a plan to make some initial investments to do that in a more strategic and hopefully clever way. And I know that's a lot, but I'm happy to answer any and all questions about it.
And the projection then for the ending balance, so we're starting around 4 million and we're projecting an ending balance of 2.5 million.
So we're spending it down. And that 2.5 also, though, there can be different fund levels that come in. If the Crow and Gift Shop performs exceptionally well, the 2.4 million, as we see with a lot of things, we never quite get to our spend rate for some of these things. So we don't anticipate necessarily spending 2.4 million, but this is how we would spend that 2.4 million. You always over budget and then underspend, right? Is kind of a sensible way to do it.
Open up. So you're ready for us for questions?
Absolutely.
Yes. Open questions.
So I just want to make sure I'm thinking about this in the right way. We've got a couple different budgets to approve. You're specifically talking about changes to the commissioner's fund budget.
Correct. The commission fund budget for this year.
Approve an operations budget and a capital budget. And your first cut of these is in here, right?
Well, the operations budget was approved by us in February, March, and then it was approved by City Council in June.
This is
The commissioner fund budget goes afterwards. Yep. The commission fund budget is afterwards in order to address needs after City Council figures out our budget.
So when I look at fiscal year 2024 budget, that's fiscal year ended June 30th, 2024.
Yes.
But the
Correct.
budget has not been approved.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just wondering why we're comparing. I guess we're looking at last year's completed budget.
Exactly.
Compared to budget, how we performed, and then next year's. Okay, I do have some questions. This is really the capital improvement dollars that we only.
And there is an all funds, 2 documents that show the all funds. It's the last 2 attachments. Shows the all expense summary, as well as there's 3 of them. Then there's one that compares fiscal year 23 actual, 23 budget, 24 budget, which shows everything that's attachment E. And it shows everything from an operational standpoint, then everything from capital. So you're seeing that all in budget, as well as then there's one that shows the budgets from 2019 all the way through 2024. It shows all in operational budget.
So to frame it, as you said, Molly, there are 2 things that are going on here. First of all, is we are tasked to approve the spending or the appropriation of this commissioner's fund budget, which is the 2.4 that you see, the budget request for $2.4 million of commissioner's fund budget. So that's the first thing that we should look at. The second thing that we are looking at, and this is where this goes back several years to when the city asked for an overall review of park budgeting and finances. And the Crow report came out that said nobody's looking at a consolidated budget of what it really costs to run. And so because of that, and it was a valid point, in my opinion, what we're doing at the tail end of this is also looking at what is the total that we're utilizing to manage and operate the parks. So that's why you see, and I don't have a page number on these, so it's hard for me.
We're going to work on page numbers.
Yeah, and so the one attachment that you have here that sort of looks like this one, this is the consolidated look, all funds going into the park board budget, where you see city all funds, that is what's already been approved. We approved the submission to the council back in, as Craig said, in May or March or April, somewhere along there. So you can see up there that we have a budget that's been provided by the city of almost $23.5 million. Then we have the commissioner's fund, what we are budgeting to receive from other sources such as the Parks Foundation, as well as the Greater Cincinnati Foundation, so that we have a total picture that we're saying we are going to budget for full operations of the park board of $25.88 million for next year. And then below that, you have the capital. And this one is different from the standpoint that it's not use it or lose it. That's just allocating money. And at this, we only have in a budget, we only have budgeted what we submitted to the city. We don't budget for capital projects that we may find along the way that we need money for.
Well, and importantly, to Molly's question about not just capital projects, but to all of our budget line items, the only use it or lose it line item is the general fund. And so, as you can see, we were very close between 23 actual and 23 budget to spending almost all of our general fund money. And that's where Craig and his team do an excellent job of making sure that's the first money we use. Because no matter how much we want to hire things quickly and do things quickly, there is lag. We don't always spend all of this. And so those funds, whether it's urban forestry, admissions fees, funding from other restricted funds, or the commissioner funds, or the capital dollars, they stay with us if we are unsuccessful at spending them, or if we don't spend them as quickly as we want to, which is what's allowed these funds to build up over time. So that's why we're proposing going with a more aggressive plan to spend, knowing we still won't spend it all, but going with a more aggressive plan to try to activate these dollars. If we have more avenues we're trying to activate, we're going to be more successful at spending those dollars and activating them for park users.
Yeah.
And then I also should note one other thing. This budget, the investment committee recommended zero distribution from the funds that the park board controls and that makes the decision on, because the balance is so high. And so the amount coming in this year from the funds, the roll off, if you will, of investment profit is only for the funds that have a mandatory distribution of 5%, because that's Fifth Third's policy. The park board funds are anywhere from, up to the principal of it, and the park board investment committee recommended zero. And so in the future, as we spend this down, there can be more kind of regular revenue coming in from that under different circumstances.
So
One question, the money that you're saving in salaries by using the commissioner's fund to pay some of these salaries down, what are you going to use that for? Where's that going?
Excellent question. So
that is the question.
I got a plan, which the team's really excited about. All right. So there are 6 positions that we're looking to activate. One is the grant writer, which we're hopeful that we will begin advertising for very soon. Second is a crew leader, which I think is called a maintenance crew leader, is the specific position, but a district crew leader that would be in charge of leading our efforts at Water Nursery to increase production there through growing more plants for prone, growing more plants for a green space team that plants out in the field where we currently grow none. We buy all that. Growing more plants for our operations team that takes care of our parks, that plants these beautiful beds even around this building here. Currently, we buy all that. The idea is to activate Water Nursery to produce more of that. Additionally, we're working on plans to activate Water Nursery to grow trees for the first time ever as Parks Board, to grow trees in order to reforest areas of our forest where we're removing honeysuckle, but also to do plantings for the right of way. Currently, urban forestry buys about 1,500 trees a year for about $250 a pop. We could grow those trees and make sure we're growing native trees here at Water Nursery. And then additionally, just trees that we plant throughout our system. Additionally, if we produce extra trees, we could then help plant in other city controlled areas, whether they are golf courses, recreation sites, or even potentially help our friends at the school board in different ways. So we're really excited about that plan. And so to hire someone to kind of head up that would specifically manage Water Nursery is a real big change, but one we think is going to yield a lot of benefit. These plans are early days, which is why we're not here to approve the hiring of that person, but it's another spot we want to show you about when we take this tour coming up. Next up is Explore Nature. Explore Nature has one manager and then a lot of people that are actually running the programs. They've lacked an assistant manager for a long time. So we want to propose hiring. Title is an service area coordinator, but it would essentially be an assistant manager for Explore Nature. The head of Explore Nature is retiring next summer. So we want to get an assistant in and start to do some succession planning. Additionally, it's long been thought that there's a lot of opportunity for educational grants for our educational programming, but with only one manager, there's just been no capacity for that. So we're excited to allow this new person to free up some capacity and then work with the grant writer, potentially expand the Explore Nature program. Additionally, we only have one individual that is specifically on staff to take care of trails. And then we have one individual that's on staff in Crystal Sea to take care of invasive species. We're proposing to add 2 additional trail florists is the title, but it would help and be out in the parks, helping to clear our trails, helping to manage our trails, helping to keep them nice and clear and make sure that we're managing the invasive species around them and removing those, but also managing like the wildflowers coming back and keeping those trails in great shape. And then lastly, a facilities maintenance specialist. So as we talk about some of these tiny repairs, such as the lights that need to be replaced in all of these fountains, or some of the other things, just the other day, Commissioner Castellini, you were in my office saying, I think you might have a gutter problem. These are the people that would handle the gutter problems. And so we talk a lot about deferred maintenance, but this is the ongoing maintenance. Our team is spread thin. And when you don't have enough people, you don't have enough people to take care of the ongoing year-to-year maintenance and keeping things in that tip-top shape. And as we do that, as we keep things in that tip-top shape, it's going to prevent future deferred maintenance, and it's going to help Joel's team when they come up with this schedule of warranties. These are the facility maintenance specialists that'll be able to help us identify those, manage those, and monitor those ongoing. So that's the kind of the 6 roles that we think would be really helpful to really show a huge impact to citizens. And, you know, it kind of follows the strategy we've taken from the beginning, whether it was through the budget where we identified 9 additional positions to bring in and help provide more services and make the parks look even better, to these positions as well. We're trying to get more staff on the team, boots on the ground to help take care of these parks and do a really good job for folks.
Maybe one way that I frame this too. Okay, we're looking at a big increase in our commissioners fund budget. It's going towards people. So that is what, and to say a little bit differently, I wouldn't look at this as we are saving money up in the general fund. We are talking about adding more people that we requested of the city to increase our general fund because we had identified some positions that we really thought would help with park operations. The city approved funding out of our restricted funds, of our funds, but the city did not have general fund money to add additional positions in the general fund. So what this basically is doing, we're saying these positions that we've identified will help our operations. Mm-hmm. We couldn't get it through city general funds. This is a way to utilize our commissioners fund endowment money to fund those positions. So at the end of the day, there's not a big change as far as the commissioners fund budget year over year from last year to this year, except we are now looking at spending about $1.2 million more out of commissioners fund to go to salaries that we didn't get funding for somewhere else.
Wonderful.
Have I said that correctly, Craig?
The number is 600,000 more, but yes, spending 600,000 more on salaries.
It says salaries and benefits. Last year 15, this year 16, so it's 1.2 million.
Which one are you looking at?
Oh, that's
Attachment D, all expenses.
yes, a lot of that's going to be also for the, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I think it's correct to say that commissioners fund year over year, the types of money that we are spending for operations are about the same. It's that we're asking to spend more money from the commissioners fund to support operational staff.
That's correct.
So question on. So we're really getting a big pickup in projected distributions in the unrestricted funds. To the tune, we won't have as much a significant balance remaining as of 2024. So are we projecting then a sustainable amount of contributions in this unrestricted account such that we can continue to keep these new positions staffed?
Yes, and so that is where this year and for the past several years, there's been no distribution from the funds that the park board is specifically able to decide how much to distribute. Investment committee said, look, you have a big balance, let's not distribute. But the park board has the ability to distribute up to, well, as much as we want to, up to the principal. Obviously, we want to find a sustainable level of distribution. 5%. Fifth Third accounts say 5% a year. And that's what's allowed those to grow a little bit. But yes, we will be able to increase that distribution next year in order to make that.
Well, it's not been the 5% that it's allowed this to grow. It's been the increase in the investment markets that's allowed this to grow. So 5% is the right amount. That's what keeps endowments alive forever. Is that the markets generally increase an average of 7 to 8%. We distribute 5% a year, they'll always just keep growing just a little bit.
Yeah, let me echo what Jason is saying. We talked about this a lot at the investment committee. It is a fact that we have had extremely good market conditions, which has generated some good income to our endowment funds. For the past, I believe it's been 3 years. So as Jason said, there's a group of our $20 million in endowment funds. There's a group that are managed by Fifth Third. Those are private foundations that have to, at minimum, distribute the 5%. So we get that every year. There's another 400 some thousand, or how much is the additional? Let's pick a number. It's either $300,000 or $400,000 that we could have taken out of our endowment funds had we wanted to, up to the 5%. Because we've got this large balance sitting already in the commissioner's fund, the investment committee said, no, don't roll that money out of invested funds because you don't need it this year. I'm confident to what your question, it's the exact question I have, is adding these people, is it sustainable going forward? And I do believe it is. Because going back and looking, we have for at least 3 years taken zero out of those funds that we are the trustee for. So I think there is money that would be available. Number one, it'll probably take a few years to spend down what we already have there. But then on top of that, on an ongoing basis, there will be funds available that I believe will be able to support what they're asking for.
And I do want to point out what's being targeted here from the Commissioner's Fund for reimbursements are restricted funds. So we are not targeting unrestricted funds for reimbursements. And that's the salary piece, right? The salary. So with doing that, what you're looking at that's going to go down through the years is those restricted fund balance. And we're allowed to do that mainly because of open positions that you don't see us spend down the money. So on attachment E, you'll notice on the actuals, for like the admissions and fees, the actual spend was about 4.4 million. The budget was about 5.6 million. And you see that really non-spend because we didn't perform reimbursements because we didn't have to. So you're going to see where, as we go through the progression in the years to come, that we have that availability because we know as hard as Derek works, always going to have open positions that will not result in reimbursements.
So trying to bring this to a head here. For the first thing I think we have to address is the commissioner's fund budget. And do we support the use of those funds for salary reimbursement, that's what's diverging from what we've done in the past. I have my own personal opinion is that those funds can be used to help parks, whether for people or for mulch. And I personally support the concept of getting the people that we need to be able to run the parks. So I think that's the first question that we have to answer, because that's the only variance in the commissioner's fund 1 year to the next.
I do too. I mean, let's be clear, everything we talk about, the limiting factor is people. I mean, when we talk about 6 pages of projects, the limiting factor, certainly it's cash, but it's who's going to manage this project? How can we get this forward? There are only so many hands to go around. These are hands, not ones. So the more hands will create more opportunity. I do think going forward, what we will need to have a grasp on more, in a more comprehensive manner than what we are seeing here, is our ongoing obligations of the Commissioners Fund related to salaries that it will fund. Before we have any kind of approval to fund this project for 300,000 or this project for 70,000, because it's been a go-to answer when we haven't had any other resource. It's like, oh, well, there's no other fund that's going to support this, so we have to make sure it gets done. Let's use the Commissioners Fund. And that's, at least since I've been sitting in this chair, this is what it's been used for. And I think there's been some frustration with that approach, because we do want to be more strategic with this pot of money than it being the answer for when there's no other answer. So, you know, with all that said, I just think we'll need to have an analysis as we go forward with requests from the Commissioners Fund to really have an understanding of how much capacity it has.
Absolutely.
Because it'll be gone before we know it. And then we won't have that go-to fund for things that must be done that we don't have another source for.
Well, and another piece of that puzzle is to go back to the work that Joel and his team have done with Craig to organize our capital line items. And so each year, so you'll see this budget where we get $2.67 million of new capital this year. So our spend last year was like 7 because we did like Lytle Park and a couple big ones. Our new capital dollars this year are 2.67 million, which is the funds that are appropriated by City Council. They're the SMAIL funds that are coming, the infrastructure and review dollars. You approved that budget for 2 years in December of last year. The budget for 2022, so that was for FY23 and FY20. I'm sorry, that was for FY24 and FY25. FY24 just started. In December of 21, you approved the capital budget for FY22. That budget included like 20 or 30 projects, about $2.6 million or so. Of that, I think, and I don't have the report for it in front of me, but we've spent very little of that. And we've already are through FY23 and starting FY24. So what we've been able to do is organize all that much better, clean up all of the hanging fund line items from the past. And one of the things that Joel seems working to do is to have like a reallocation amendment that will happen sometime in the coming months, where we will clean up some of those line items so it'll be much more clear what our fund balance is. I know that's something that you've been asking for since I started, is wait a second, what is the total amount available that's kind of like free? One of the strategies that was done in the past was to, when you approved the infrastructure and review budget in December, was to say, we're going to spend it on these 37 projects. The problem is, as we know, that throughout the year, other things come up, things don't come up. You get to certain things, some things are on fire, some things aren't. You don't necessarily spend all 30 of those projects once you kind of dig into them. Maybe it's not as bad as you thought. And so we would have these like hanging projects. And this has happened for years, creating this long list of 30,000, 120,000, 50,000. And sometimes it would be almost like a pool of money. We'll spend about 100 on lights, about 200 on plumbing, about 80 on roofs. That's great, but then that makes it very confusing when you fund projects, because like we're going to take 27 from this roof line item and 37 from plumbing over here. And it's like, wait a second. Moving forward, we want to clean that up to have kind of an infrastructure review, and we'll have 2 separate votes. One will be, here's the money available. And then the second will be, here's the plan. And we won't put all that into line items in the Cincinnati financial system, which is what makes it crazy. We'll instead say, this year, here's $1 million worth of tiny projects we want to do. Everything from fixing the roof on this building to fixing the road in this place or the sewer grade over here. But instead of approving that, you'll approve them as like, hey, yeah, this is the plan of work. But then every month when Joel comes in and says, check it out, here's what we're up to. Instead of saying, I'm pulling money from here, 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 and here, we'll start the year with $1 million and we'll spend down. I'm going to spend 85 on lights, 65 on plumbing. And then you'll see much more clearly how that's spending down. But just like with these commissioner funds, we've got a balance, and that balance has become much more clear, and we have much better insight into that. And we're going to clean it up a bit to give you even better insight into it. So as we go through this fall, last fall, my first couple months in the job, we approved some.
It does feel like office, doesn't it? I'll do things.
Yeah, I have important ones up here, But we partnered with the foundation on 5 projects that we were like, all right, these are the projects that we're going to work on. We came up with a capital request that we approved in December, and we did the schedule of work that we approved in December as well. It was kind of like a viewpoint into that. We hope to get even much more specific and much more transparent about what those dollars will be like as we head into next year, so that you guys will be approving, here's the projects we want to work on, here's the bucket of money we want to spend it from, rather than associate that and try to guess what an August project will be in December. We'll just move down that list. So we'll have just really good transparency into kind of what that balance is. Because unlike some of these other fund balances, the capital balance is like, it's a very big balance, that 980, which is where we pulled some of the funding for Jenny's Washington Park lights. But it's not, all of these are pinned to things. And so we're going to clean all that up.
Yeah.
Hopefully this transparency you're asking for is going to get a lot better over the time. It's a long diatribe.
Yeah, let me bring us back to you're absolutely right. That Commissioner North is correct, that this fund historically has been, because the balance is built up, it has been the go-to when you can't find the funds anywhere else. We'll just take it out of the Commissioner's fund.
It's been reactionary.
It has been reactionary, and it's been whatever we can, let's try and spend this down. 2 things I want to say. Number one, I bristle when we say we got to spend this money down. What I'm very, very happy about is the approach that you've taken to not just say, how can I spend this money, but how can I spend this money most effectively to do what needs to be done? So I commend you on that. But Molly's point is absolutely correct, that we do have to have that visibility into, okay, now what are we committed to going forward? It's now there is a restricted part of this Commissioner's Fund budget to supply funding for those. So what you are just talking about is going to help us going forward to have visibility into funds available, so we don't have to knee jerk and say, take the money out of the fund, out of the Commissioner's Fund. So I appreciate that.
So do I understand, Molly, what you're really asking for is a strategic plan for the Commissioner's Fund?
Well, yeah, well, I think what I was asking for was more simple, which was looking at the expected receipts in the
Right.
Commissioner's Fund and the obligations of the Commissioner's Fund ongoing.
Mhm.
So, and it may be multiple years projected. I know it wouldn't be an approved budget, but it's a forecast.
Mhm.
So that when we do get a
That
request,
we should be able to see that.
we understand what our capacity.
Yes,
in the
exactly.
Commissioner's
Got
Fund
it.
is.
I got it.
And if there is additional capacity, yes, that we develop a strategy for the spending. of
Yeah,
it.
got it.
The only,
Develop something similar to that for the investment committee, and we can get that. I don't want to overcommit, Craig, but we can get that for you relatively quickly.
okay,
I would prefer to look at it as an overall operating budget forecast, what is needed, because a lot of times what occurs is we don't necessarily need the money on the restricted side of our accounts, which doing an overall would provide a better visual what we need to operate and maintain operations.
well, the only other thing I'll add, everybody in this room knows that the city state thinks we died in our circumstances related to its operating fund. And the part will be looked at just as any other department will. And what I can say, after having studied headcounts, parks is one of the areas that has not increased headcount over many years. I know that the city manager's office has data analytics and we're part of that, so they can see kind of outcomes from the parks. But it may be helpful for us to establish some additional visibility into outcomes that we anticipate for the dollars that we want city council to
Absolutely.
it. I know that all city council members are dedicated to the parks, but there will be hard decisions to make, and we want to make these decisions very easy and illustrate, the payback from an investment, a continued investment here.
Any other questions, comments? I'd like to then focus in on 2 things. First of all, I'd like to get a motion. We have a request, presentation, or recommendation from staff that we approve a $2.4 million Commissioner's Fund budget. Am I correct on that?
That is correct.
Okay. I have to make sure I've got my columns in the right place. And we all had just had discussion on where that increase is coming, what it will be used for. If there's no other discussions, questions, can I entertain a motion to approve the recommended budget for the Commissioners Fund?
So moved.
And is there a second? Second. Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion? If not. Did you have something you want?
No.
I didn't think so.
So,
It is, absolutely. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Again, this is one of the key things we do as a commission. These are funds we have, we sitting here are the trustees. We have the beneficiary of over $20 million in endowment funds. So this is a key of what we're doing. And again, I want to say thank you to both Craig and for Jason for helping us not just figure out how to spend the money, but how to spend it best for parks. And I think what we see here is doing that.
I'll tell you about
The
that.
last thing that I will do is just once again mention or draw your attention that when you have time, take a look at this page that shows us the full picture of what it takes to run our parks today, how much money we are spending to maintain and to operate our parks. Because that's what we're charged to do. So with that, thank you, Craig. Thank you.
Craig.
We are to the director's comments, since you've not made any this whole meeting. This is where you have an opportunity.
My mom always said I like to talk, so I'm in my element. It is once again time for the relief program. Our natural resource management team gives away free trees every year to Cincinnati property owners. Our goal, of course, citywide is to increase tree canopy to 40% across every city neighborhood. We've given over 20,000 free trees, consisting of over 40 species over the last 36 years. This year, we've got 1,000 trees available, 10 different species: redbuds, winter king, hawthorns, maples, elms, persimmons, and more. And we're starting our advertising blitz. We're once again targeting our low tree canopy neighborhoods, which there is, I think 14, maybe 20, but includes Avondale, Bond Hill, Camp Washington, Carthage, even places like Coreyville, all of the downtown neighborhoods, downtown, over the Rhine, Pendleton, all have very low tree canopy because they're so dense. But we're always targeting these neighborhoods first. You can register exclusively on September 9th at 8 a.m. So that's when applications are open, September 9th at 8 a.m. And then the pickup, and then for everybody, so for those targeted neighborhoods, it's September 9th at 8 a.m. Everybody else, for whatever's left over, is September 23rd at 8 a.m. And then we'll give out the trees in October. Once again, we got to thank Mad Tree Brewing, Dynegy, and of course, the Cincinnati Parks Foundation for making this all possible. They were our partners last year, and they've stepped up yet again. I imagine we'll do the tree giveaway at Mad Tree, which was just a blast last year. National Public Lands Day is September 23rd. This past year, we've benefited from over 41,000 hours of volunteer work in our parks. Absolutely unbelievable. I gotta point out, on Rocky's team, Crystal Johnson Roberts just does an absolute amazing job of organizing volunteers, talking to them, helping them out, cajoling them, inspiring them. She's just so great. Oh, and Andrew's on that team as well. Andrew also does social media too. He's got multiple jobs with the team, but yes, just does a great job. And a lot of that requires working in the evenings and on weekends too, to take care of that stuff. So just really appreciate that. This year, we're doing things on Public Lands Day, which is the nation's largest single day volunteer event for public lands. We're doing events in La Buena Woods, Alms Park, Buttercup Valley, and more. So just a really great day of a lot of volunteer activity.
Say the date again.
September 23rd.
Okay.
All the details are available on our website, obviously.
Okay.
Crone Conservatory. Every time we talk about Crone, we talk about how many people are going to Crone and how well it's doing. First Flowers is currently at Crone. It is flowers have been around for generations. These are very old plants, but they also have 5 dinosaurs and 2 additional sculptures of early mammals that are in the exhibit space. Absolutely gorgeous and is really cool. It's already brought in $176,000 this year, and it just opened on July 1st. It's already on track to break the previous record, which was just set last year at Prismatica. So Mark House and the team at Crone are just doing amazing jobs of keeping that fresh and exciting and bringing in new things. Do we have a slide of that dinosaur slide? Or is it just the one? Okay. You got to check it out. It's really cool. Also, we're doing fun events. We've got Donuts and Dinosaurs. We've got the Crone Conservatory Inspired Gin, which had an event with Molly Wellman. And Crone is turning 90. And so we're cutting a cake at noon on Sunday, September 10th. So pretty exciting birthday for Crone. Some upcoming events. So we've got obviously Riverfest is coming up. We just had Flutog, but we also have a lot of fun stuff. We've got Riverfest West at Mount Echo Park on September 3rd, which is the night of the fireworks. It'll have food trucks and games and music. We're at Bat Night at La Buena Woods. This is August 26th from 7:30 to 9. It's a celebration of International Bat Night, and participants will learn about our local bats, see live bats, play batty games, make crafts, and go on an evening hike to see if they can spot some flying mammals. We're going to be joined by local bat rehabilitator, Anita Buck. So that is $6 a person, but pretty affordable for what sounds like a pretty fun night. The final fun day at Ezard Charles Park concert will be featuring Tamani, and that's from 12 to 4 on September 9th. And then last, we have International Children's Day, an annual event at Burnett Woods Trailside Nature Center, September 23rd as well, 11 to 4. Celebrates children's and cultures from around the world. There'll be a parade of flags, a petting zoo, freebies for kids. This event is a partnership with Cincinnati USA Sister Cities Association, Cincinnati Parks Foundation, Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library, the Camping and Education Foundation, and USA Balloonistics. So lots of awesome and fun stuff happening in parks that we are excited to share with everybody. And with that, I will pass it back to you, sir.
That's a lot going on. That's some great events going on in our parks. And if you mentioned Crone, just again, pass along to Mark and his staff, just knockdown job that they're doing. I mean, it's knockout job. It's great draw. With that, I'll remind us that we have to think about long-term Crone and its needs and long-term viability. With that, I'll open it up to commissioners. Discussion, comments, anything for the order?
I was just thinking, Jason, didn't you start right the Tuesday after Labor Day last
So
year?
Labor Day, closing in.
And the whole Labor Day weekend in the park celebrating
Exactly.
your 1 year
Yep.
anniversary. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Dog year.
It's a dog year, but it's also gone by lickety split too. And I say this every time I get a chance to talk to you guys, but it's just the honor of a lifetime to do this job. Never necessarily a job that I thought I would be so lucky as to have, a responsibility so great. But, I've always just wanted to serve my community, and this just feels like the greatest stage to do it on. And I still just feel like I'm running to work every morning. So thank you so much for this honor.
You're running it during work too. So, and I'll just mention that one of our roles should be to provide feedback to Jason besides in this meeting. So we will be talking about making sure that we give formal feedback to Jason. So stay tuned for that.
I was thinking like a water balloon, like a dunking tank.
That was on the list that we had considered. So. But no, it's our opportunity to review all the good things that are going on. And so we owe it to our employee to do that. So we'll be talking about that. But it's been a great year. I do want to mention, this is not a downer, but it's something that we need to continue focusing on. And that's the shootings that are occurring in our parks. And I want to make sure that we do everything that we can do from a park standpoint, and I know we do it, to maintain a safe environment for our citizens and for those that are visiting. It's something that is not a parks specific problem. It's an issue nationwide that we are facing with gun violence. And I just encourage us that I know you're continuing to talk with CPD, whatever we can do to help in that process, that we can take steps to help make it a perceived safe space for people.
On that
we need to be
subject,
doing. Go
on
ahead.
that subject.
Yep.
I heard it mentioned about cameras. Do any cameras exist in our parks? Not to my knowledge, but what do I know?
There are some, yes,
There are some?
there are some.
Smale has some, but I don't know where else besides Smale. And we may not want to talk about locations. Let's not talk about
I don't locations, but I'm just talking about an ongoing situation that maybe we should figure out what it would cost us to put cameras in parks, because we know that the police are understaffed and we are not in charge of doing policing. There used to be park police, but that's long gone. And maybe this is a way to help support the police and also make our parks safer. So how do we go about looking into that?
I agree with that because I've actually all kind of parks now, especially being in this role, and that's something I've noticed. Like I don't see a lot, but I would love to see more because on the side, people do always ask me about, hey, this happened, even though it's minor. Do you all have cameras? Someone broke in my car. Is there a way someone can see, what happened or who, so I can do my own work, report? And seeing that across the country, I'm thinking we've got to be, I wouldn't say we're not proactive, but more proactive and just that field of just surveillance. And I mean, it could even be dual surveillance where it's our own system and then we allow CPD or someone else to tap into that. But I would really love to see that more in our parks, so that surveillance piece. I know it sucks, but hey, that's what we have to do. And hearing about these shootings is just, that's in my head, I'm batty. I just don't want to see that, especially as we've been so wonderful building our parks. I just don't want to see more of that at all.
And I really like the way you framed that this is a way that we can support Cincinnati police. This is a way that we can add a layer of support and protection. And, it's a deterrent too, so it's something that I fully agree with. I know Jason, I think you were talking with somebody, CRC is very involved with this at the moment. And there has been discussions with CPD where CPD is asking that the cameras that we install at CRC are compatible or the same as theirs or whatever. But I know that it's something that we should piggyback on what CRC is looking at right now to roll out. As they're rolling out more cameras, I believe we should look at strategically where it makes sense to put some for parks as well.
What I should note,
So importantly, I think it heightens the feeling of safety.
Oh,
absolutely.
When they come, and I think it's important for us to let our visitors know that we are concerned about their safety and that we're doing what we can to make them feel more safe.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree.
When I should just note that in response to some of the shootings that we've seen recently, we had over the last 2 weeks, I've had two different kind of hour and a half, 2 hour long meetings with the Cincinnati Police Department. One of them included the city manager's office, where we brought them into the meeting to make sure there was visibility from the absolute top level into what's going on. And we've talked about some short and intermediate steps. One that I didn't let them talk about was spending your money, but I was glad to know that the park board supports kind of looking for some strategic ways that we can spend money and look at how we can help with this. So.
Absolutely. Anything else from commissioners? Go ahead.
Yeah, everyone, we've all been talking about it. Flu Talk Saturday, this past Saturday. I just want to take a moment to, since we're all live, to say thank you to everyone that was able to make it to Flu Talk. If you weren't able to make it, it will be airing on ESPN2 this Saturday.
Oh,
So you can watch it. I don't know if everyone knows, there was a giant broadcast trailer there. So that's why it was there. But I mean, that was huge to be at Eaton's Cove and Sawyer Point. I mean, 50,000+ people. I don't know if you all noticed the bridges. But across the bridge, people were just lined up, just watching and observing. And even me getting emails from people that don't even live here, just like, man, that must have been one big event. And I'm like, yes, it was. But I just want to take time to say thank you, because I did pitch for that. I did campaign for that. And who knew a year later I'd become park commissioner. So again, I want to say thank you to everyone for just supporting that.
I said this to kid coming in, our parks really are a way that the city shines. And we are such a visible part of the city. And when something special like that happens, where does it happen? In a Cincinnati park.
Yeah.
So, and we know that all of you sitting in this room and all the people that you have out in the field as well, the number of people that go into a day like that, leading up to it, the day itself, and then the recovery after the fact from it, it just really shows the great work that our parks
I
do.
do want to do one last thank you to the staff as well that was down there. I got to witness them running with no head, like literally, and to the carts, talking about the golf carts, seeing them going back and forth, not just for Flutog, but also the DJ festival that took place over at the Brady Center, and just seeing them and, seeing Lou and everyone just really hustling and staying on top of things. It was phenomenal. So I just want to say thank you to them for just working so diligently and being so upbeat too. It was hot, but they were upbeat. They were making it work. So yeah.
Well, and you remind me, and I was remiss, and it's always hard to come up with everything to talk about, but
Done it yet?
it's important to note that coming up is the Hats Off Luncheon, which is an annual celebration by our friends of the foundation. And every year they honor a Cincinnatian who has made an indelible impact upon Cincinnati parks. And this year, it was just announced yesterday, that this year they're going to honor the Cincinnati Parks Riverfront team. So they're going to honor our staff. I believe it's the first time they've honored our staff, but Lou, Casey McCann, Scott Benz, Lou Sand, Casey McCann, Scott Benz, the top leadership, and all of the florists and laborers and the folks that make that happen are going to get honored. I'm quickly trying to pull it up. I believe it is the 12th.
October
6th. Friday, October 6th.
Knows that day.
Anyways, it's coming up October 6th. Hopefully you will all get a chance to be there. But it's really exciting for our team. And we talk about various Cincinnati Parks employees that are just doing an amazing job. And sometimes the legacy of some parks employees that have spent their career and their lives doing some amazing things. And this is just a great way to honor them. And I should point out that Jenny is even the boss of them. So the Riverfront team is following in her footsteps as a former regional manager of the Riverfront team, but they just all do a great job. And so it's exciting.
I'd like to thank the foundation too for the Kathy Caldemeyer kaleidoscope. It's a great enhancement for the park. It's something unique and different. And I think it was a great addition. And a nice tribute to Kathy as well.
Super. Anything else? If not, we will be back on our schedule of Thursday. Thank you for the accommodation this week. Next meeting will be on Thursday, usual.
That's another great reminder. Can you all join me in wishing Jim Getz a happy birthday? Well, we can at least please don't say happy birthday to Park Board President, Mr. Getz. I hope you have a very wonderful time.
Thank you very much.
Schedule around so you could do this on your birthday.
No, this is not my birthday.
Coming birthday.
It's scheduled around because I have plans to be out of town for my birthday. So, but thank you very much. With that, that's the end of our business meeting. We started the meeting by saying it's a great day to be in parks. Every day is a great day to be in parks. And it's so evident to everybody, the park system that we have and what a gem it is for this city and for the region. And it's because of you guys sitting here that run it every single day. We show up once a month to thank you. If we do nothing else, thank you very much for what you're doing.
And as Jason says, there are no problems, just opportunities.
Every day is an opportunity for Jason. With that, I'm going to adjourn our meeting. Thank you again for being here and for those watching on television. Thank you very much.